It must be movie premiere time, and on the menu today, the cinematic equivalent of a reheated, crusty TV dinner, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Did someone order nostalgia with a side of disappointment? Let's throw it back to a time when Indiana Jones was synonymous with spectacular. Picture it, if you will, the years when the franchise was a wonderfully iced cake, oozing sweet fun at the seams. The fifth slice of the cake, however, appears to have been left out on the counter for a bit too long, if you get my drift. Tucked within its tired layers, one might find specks of the old charm. The razzle-dazzle, a bit of the old daring-do. But let's be real. This is a slice that should have been consumed while fresh. Alas, time and director James Mangold have done to it what a microwave does to leftover pizza, sapping the life right out of it. A reheated spectacle it may be, but it's sorely lacking in seasoning. Harrison Ford, the whip-cracking archaeologist, is back again like the proverbial bad penny, gruffly swaggering around at the ripe age of 80. Oh, the nostalgia! There he is in all his fedora et glory, the AARP member of Action Heroes. You've got to hand it to Ford. Amidst all the out-of-breath running, he still manages to keep that trademark fedora on his head. But you see, whether it's the half-baked set pieces or the lackluster supporting cast, this movie is a cinematic relic trying to pass itself off as relevant. Picture it. Like your great-aunt Mabel attempting to post her first pics on OnlyFans. Speaking of hot, it's been a hot minute since we had our last Indiana Jones film. Now, before I get too nostalgic, let me make it clear that this isn't some snobbish anti-sequel rant. Not at all. I loved Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Not! But what this new edition brings to the table is about as exciting as a cheese sandwich. It's like the franchise has turned into that high school quarterback, trying to recapture his glory days at the 40-year reunion, but just can't quite throw the ball like he used to. Our dear, graying Indiana Jones, having hung up his whip, now carries a significant paunch and an equally significant pile of regrets. He's been left in the dust by his beloved Marion, making him as alone as a bear in hibernation. Our once famed adventurer has been reduced to a nostalgic old-timer, his glory days seemingly a far-off dream. In steps his estranged goddaughter Helena, who seems to have taken after Indy, aspiring to be an archaeologist herself. This prompts a quest to find the Antikythera, a device supposedly capable of exploiting ripples in time, dreamt up by Archimedes himself. But of course, there's a Nazi out there, Voller by name, who fancies this antique time-warping gadget for his ill-intended machinations. Nazis. Such creative villains. James Mangold, known for his memorable remakes like 3:10 to Yuma, seems to have taken a misstep with Dial of Destiny. It's about as much of an escapist delight as filing your tax returns. This Indiana Jones film, while ticking off the checklist of nostalgic cliches and vintage score notes, seems to have misplaced the franchise's youthful spirits somewhere along the line. Picture it. It's like your dad trying to do a TikTok dance, commendable but ultimately cringe-inducing. The film does its bit to remind us of Jones's sagging spirit and age-slowed pace. Our once swift hero is shown to be visibly slower, almost like a sloth trying to sprint. Sure, they've used some snazzy de-aging tech on Ford in the opening sequence, but then it's back to the geriatric Indiana Jones, who'd probably throw his back out doing anything more than a light jog. Yet, ironically, the film insists on tossing him into extravagant action scenes, which are about as convincing as the protagonist's toupee in a hurricane. And oh boy, do we have a plethora of colorful characters to accompany our aging hero. Waller-Bridge plays the sassy goddaughter whose role mostly consists of being yelled at by Jones during action sequences. Her character development is about as deep as a kiddie pool, and the rapport between them is as warm and genuine as a Botox smile. It's like watching two strangers thrown together in a carpool, forced to make awkward conversation about the weather. And let's not forget the villain of the piece, the nefarious Nazi Voller, played by Mikkelsen. He's as threatening as a marshmallow and about as memorable as a maths lecture. The Antikythera itself, about as awe-inspiring as finding out your socks match. And just when you think it couldn't possibly get any more anticlimactic, it does, with a finale that could have been choreographed by a gaggle of production executives at HGTV. Lacking the cheeky spark that made this series so irresistibly fun. Sure, there's a certain poignancy in seeing the weathered yet persistent Indiana Jones again, but every time the iconic theme music kicks in, it sounds as distant and hollow as an echo in an empty auditorium. The archaeologist, known for digging up the treasures of the past, is now himself a relic, desperately trying to unearth our collective nostalgia for the glory days of a franchise that's now just a shadow of its former self. What a pity indeed.